Disabled people of Reddit, what is something we do that we think helps but it really doesn't? It's hard to explain to ATTs to some people because it is kind of a weird disorder that waxes and wanes over time and has a bunch of symptoms that confuse people. Sometimes people will ask me something like, do you know when one of your tics will occur, and I will tell them I can sometimes, and then they will make the brilliant suggestion, well, if you know, why don't you just not do it? Thanks guys, never tried that before. Why don't you voluntarily stop doing that involuntary thing? Brilliant. The world of neurology needs to know. As someone with deaf family members and lots of deaf friends, please stop handing us menus in braille when we go out to eat. We are just signing to each other. We are not blind and obviously don't need braille menus. It happens more often than you would probably think. Deefy here. I appreciate it when I tell people I'm deaf and they don't act like I just told them my dog died. I'm not disabled, but a friend of mine is blind. She said when people move out of her way and get real quiet as she approaches, it freaks her out. She could hear them and place kind of where they were. Then they go silent and move to the side, and she doesn't know if they are doing it to try to help out if they're getting ready to rob her. This might be obvious to some, but don't ever just grab someone's wheelchair and start pushing them around without asking. This would be like grabbing a stranger by the elbow and dragging them where you want them to go. Instead, just offer assistance like you would anyone, and if they need it, they'll usually gladly accept. Offering to help is never rude, but trying to help when it's unwanted definitely can be. I agree with this. However, I have a family member in a wheelchair and I sometimes do this when getting her into a building. I only do it then because in my head I am telling myself she's not used to using the manual wheelchair outside, just inside. I don't really think she minds because we grew up together and she would tell me if it did bother her, I'm pretty sure. You're so inspirational. I'm deaf. And no shouting at me or raising your voice isn't helping. Neither is being a weirdo by exaggerating your lip movements and talking very slowly. If communication attempts fail, I'm not bothered by you grabbing a pen and paper, but any suggestion that it doesn't matter or never mind and you've probably hit the big red button. Fudge, the never mind kills me. I'm not completely deaf yet. It's coming. But people who give up drive me crazy. Look at me. I will read your lips and everyone will be happy. Oh, and people who moan about having to watch TV with closed captioning. Don't tell someone they are too young to be sick. I've had arthritis since I was one stroke two. A doctor I met told me that the youngest case of RA she ever saw was around 12 years old. That is probably the only time I ever set a record for something. I can't count the number of times I've been harassed. Here's a good rule of thumb. If someone parks without a placard, by all means, give them heck. I'm looking at you lady parking for just a sec while you run into Starbucks. If someone parks with a placard, you don't know his or her life or why he or she has a placard. Yes, some people do use a placard when they shouldn't, but it's not your place to judge. Let the police ask for his or her paperwork. I have a friend with a prosthetic leg. He's been yelled at several times for using handicapped parking. He's known for popping his leg off and shaking it at people. When people say but you don't look autistic when I bring up that I have Asperger's, like, I'm sorry, should I just wear a rubber helmet everywhere I go? It's called a spectrum for a reason, folks. I have a teenage niece who's deaf and more than a couple of times we've gone to the airport for a trip. There is an airline attendant waiting for her with a wheelchair. She usually just smiles and jumps on for the ride. BTW, she's in her track and field team at school. Paralyzed does not equals numb. I can't move my arm, but if you touch it, I can definitely feel it. Actually, till I always thought it did. Not inviting me to places they think might be difficult for me to navigate. I am smart enough to know what I am up for and what I am not. Give me the option, don't try and spare my feelings by not asking me. My older sister is now the best about this. The kids and I are going to climb Mt. Washington. Want to come? Yes, I do. I can take pictures and drive the car to the top and meet you. And an awesome day was had by all. Don't limit me. My disability does that enough. Whenever people realize I tell them I have high functioning, autism, and they giving really exaggerated movements and voices. Not only does it make you look stupid and insensitive, but it stops me from learning and practicing the emotional cues I lack. I'm young, relatively attractive, and look totally healthy. Monday I can walk all around Target all day long. Tuesday I might have to use the electric scooter because my dizziness is out of control and I don't feel like forcing myself to stay conscious. It doesn't help when people say, "But you look so healthy." Yes, thank you. I just like to write these things for attention. One time, I had someone take a picture of me. Another time a guy on crutches glared at me as I drove by. Trust me dude, I honestly need it more than you today. One year I lived in the same dorm as a girl who, for the first few months, I always saw in a wheelchair. Then one day I saw her walking up the stairs as I was leaving and did a double take. After seeing her in a wheelchair again a few days later, I felt pretty stupid for assuming that all wheelchair users are wheelchair bound. I have cerebral palsy. I love when people help me, but please always ask first. And if I say, "No thanks, I've got it," then go on with your day. Or better yet, strike up a conversation. Muscular dystrophy, FSHD, currently in wheelchair. Back when I was in university, I was able to walk, but anything greater than that was kind of risky, would fatigue me, etc. Stairs and such. I would take the elevator from the main floor to the basement tunnels during winter and I had gotten the "Really? You need to take the elevator for one floor?" I answered back with a firm yes. Yes, I do have to take the elevator one floor. But the friend I was with, who is pretty protective of me, nearly started a fight right there. It was kind of flattering when my friend would do that, lol. But realistically, don't start crap that carries real consequences on behalf of my pride or whatever. Also, when I was walking, I'd try really hard to just blend in with everyone else. I walked with a limp at the time, so he didn't actually know I was messed up. So the whole thing was kind of a win-lose. Bittersweet. Over-the-top expressions of sympathy. I'm happy to tell people how I acquired my disability, but 99% of the time people follow it up with a lot of "I couldn't have done it. You're so courageous. It's so good that you're still doing X. I had an accident, and I made the best of my situation. The road has been crappy, but there's nothing remarkable about what I've done. I'm here because my family supported me, even when I was angry and terrible to them. But they rarely get sympathy for what they went through. Telling them they've done something great would be better than pretending I have. You wouldn't go grabbing random people in the street, so why the exception for blind people? If you want to offer assistance, that's fine, but speak up, clearly direct your inquiry, and don't make physical contact without prior permission. I sometimes help my friend with sighted guiding, mostly in areas where it's awkward for her dog. Apparently, despite no training, I'm pretty good at it. You don't just grab an elbow and take off. You literally have to guide them. "Alright, we're turning left now," then going 4 paces and we'll veer to the right. It's guiding, not bloody dragging. Very specific thing, but this bugs me on a daily basis. Bus drivers who wait until you get to the exit of the bus before lowering the bus to reduce the gap between step and pavement. We have nifty buses that raise and lower via hydraulics. This is the equivalent of just outright tipping me off the bus, because I'm already unsteady on my feet and likely to fall without the ground disappearing from under me. A moving floor is way worse than a small step, I promise you. The intention may be good, but the implementation is god-awful. I have talked to various bus drivers about it, and the good ones now don't do it to me or other people with mobility issues. But it's a huge failure of training. I have talked to various bus drivers about it, and the good ones now don't do it to me or other people with mobility issues. But it's a huge failure of training. Wonder if it's worth contacting your local bus company or something. Might not achieve anything, but it also might get the message to the right person. High functioning autistic here. If I seem upset for any reason, do not touch or talk to me unless I initiate it. If I am upset, hugging me will not make me feel better. 90% of the time when I am upset, it's because I have sensory overload, and touching will only make that worse. Sensory overload is essentially when my mind can't process anything properly anymore because there is too much going on. I understand that you want to help, but you can do that by letting me sort it out myself. Asking in a slow loud voice if a disabled person needs something. I mean, I have trouble hearing and I'd love that. Up to a point, at least. Autistic here. If you all could stop putting Facebook filters on your pics and reposting "I love my autistic son" posts, that'd be great. I don't want this disorder. To me, it feels like you're saying my son is a retard but I love him. It's very offensive and devalues us outside of our problems. It's pure virtue signaling by the parents that do that. It's such a vain thing to do and I feel terrible for the kids in the situation. Source: anorexic friend's mother regularly posts pictures of her in hospital connected to tubes talking about how hard looking after her is. The amount of glares I get for sitting down on public transport when it gets busy. I know that I'll look like a healthy 19-year-old, but walking and standing is a great struggle. AMD some days the fact I managed to make it onto a train is impressive. I need to take breaks regularly and sit to stand for any time on a moving vehicle is not possible. Also, just because I need to stop and take breals doesn't mean I want to go home. Every time I rest for a couple of minutes I get hundreds of "Are you okay? Do you want to go home?" and if I am at home just lying on the sofa chilling I constantly get "Do you want to go to bed for an hour? Should we go and leave you alone?" I don't want to live in isolation. Just because I can't do everything doesn't mean that I don't want to be able to do these things. My body needed a rest is not reflective of me being bored or wanting to go home. Trust me, I know when I have to go home. If I'm out it's because I'm able to be out. Let me have some fun for once. Not disabled, but no. Knew many people who are. You tell a kid in a wheelchair that he is the same as everyone else. What you are really saying is that you think he isn't. And you think there is value in tricking him into thinking he is. He knows what's up and it isn't helping. This goes for anyone with any problem. Don't patronize people. Respect their intelligence. Don't call me an inspiration. Be your own dang inspiration. When people say gimp or gimpy thinking it's normalizing in some way, when it's actually very offensive. Or, I have a handicap placard but I don't look handicapped or disabled. And when people get out of my car they start walking with a limp to cover for me. I never thought of gimp as a term for a disabled person. Only a BDSM term. Till. My answer would be continuously harping on something. Example, I was out with some people recently, and after one activity they were planning on going to another. I said that was the end of the night for me. I'd actually forgotten to take my meds in the morning and that had resulted in a whole day of feeling extremely off. Though they meant well, they kept asking more and more invasive questions. Like if you'll want to know the intricacies of my lupus, depression, and other various medical quirks I'll go into it, but I really don't think you do. Just take my word for it. I know what's going on in my flesh suit. I have to live in it every single day. My husband is from Russia. Sometimes I have to explain to him what a mental disorder is. They don't usually pay attention to those much in Russia. I have severe anxiety disorder. Sometimes he mistakenly tells me to just stop thinking about it or tells me it's all in my head and it's okay. My tip is to hold someone when they are having a panic attack of any kind. Give them a glass of water and tell them it's real because it is, even if it's not going to kill you, and you are there for them until it's gone. I'm not sure if I count on this thread, but I have mild autism that manifests in the form of social awkwardness and reclusiveness. Saying be social, you're totally not alone in this world doesn't fix the lack of what I'd call substantial friendships. I struggled with crippling depression for years, and everyone kept telling me the same crap. Cheer up, you don't have it that bad. Just get up and get out more. Start every day by counting your blessings. Try volunteering at a soup kitchen, so you can see people who really have it bad. My friend has a disease similar to cerebral palsy and he said, 1. People opening doors for you but it just gets in your way. 2. Moving objects and they end up getting in the way. 3. Probably the worst, moving him to a different position that feels wrong and can hurt. For the record, he is perfectly capable of moving himself. Another thing I've witnessed is that people stare at him trying to walk. We're talking long stares, anywhere he goes. If you are walking past someone with a stick or crutch, try to be the one who moves sideways if one of you has to. Chances are the other person has problems going sideways. If you absolutely must pass them in a tight space, do it on the side away from the stick. Moving the stick outwards to move sideways in that direction is way easier than putting it in front of you in order to move sideways the other way. I don't think I am describing that entirely clearly, but if you try visualizing it, most people get it. The number of people who have said to me, "Oh, I thought it was easier if I passed on the side of the stick, so I didn't bump into you," is amazing. First, that doesn't stop you bumping into me at all. And second, if you've noticed enough to think about this, great. Please take a little longer to think about how movement balance actually works, and you'll see the problem. Change in behavior and give special treatment and sympathy. It's incredibly annoying and very transparent, as for the last few years you couldn't give a crap. Yes, I have autism. Don't say no you don't or get all surprised if you find out. It's a spectrum, and just because I'm not drooling and act normally doesn't mean I don't have autism. You have been visited by the science doggo. Upvote now and you will get high grades and good results within the next week. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.